So welcome to the Joel Blake Business Show. I'm your host, Joel Blake, and today we're going to be exploring the legacy of the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games has been a fantastic thing in our region. It's really helped the region to really highlight the power that we have, the diversity that we have, the opportunities that are here. But what does it really mean for the business community? So today, to explore that subject, I want to really welcome our fantastic panel. Firstly, we have Nicola Turner, MBE, Director of Legacy for the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. We have Councillor John Cotton, Cabinet Minister for Birmingham City Council. And we have Lorna, Gavin, Head of Diversity, Inclusion and Corporate Responsibility at law firm here at Gavin WLG. Thank you all for being here today.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're just going to have a really relaxed, informal conversation because the legacy of the Commonwealth Games, it's something that's been on the tip of the region's tongue for many a year, leading up to the Games, obviously during the Games. But now we really need to get to the nitty-gritty of what this really means. So, Nicola, what if I could start with you in asking you that question, really? You know, what does the legacy really mean?
The L word, John.
The L word, what does that really mean?
There's been a lot of talk about the L word in the moments after the Games, and I think so we set out to be a catalyst for change because anyone who lives here, anyone who loves this place, knows that we've been a little bit overlooked, and maybe, you know, our place and our people haven't had all the opportunities that we have deserved. So I think we all set out, whether we were Conservative, whether we were Labour, whether we were part of the community or part of the business organisations in the city, wanting this to be a success. But goodness me, didn't we step up? So there was an investment from government, and that came to the West Midlands at a crucial time. So there was £778 million that Birmingham City Council and the central government jointly invested in putting the Games on. And it was just after the pandemic when we had just been slammed as a region and come out the worst, both economically and probably socially, than any region in the country. So we had that ace in the hole at a time we needed it. But on top of that, we also managed to attract additional investment to the region. On top of the 778, we've also brought in £85 million to spend on youth engagement, a trade and tourism programme. We have done a Jobs and Skills Academy to bring talent to the Games, jobs that were being created. And we've done loads around anyone who visited the festivals or went to their local park to one of the community festivals. This was the stuff that wrapped around the 11 days of sport. And this was the stuff that had that core running through it of the Games for everyone. And what we tried to do with all of those things was bring affordable tickets, free to access events. And we looked at who had been unemployed in the region for a long time, who would really benefit from the 40,000 jobs and skills opportunities that the Games would bring. And I'm really pleased to say that the impact of some of those investments, although it's early days, and we're waiting till next summer till we see the full report on how we've done, but emerging signals are that we tried to train 7,500 people towards jobs that the Games was going to put forward. And 27% of those had been unemployed for more than 12 months. And more than 30% of those were young people under 30. And they were the people at that time that really needed that opportunity, that prospect change. We also spent £350 million on goods and services. And it's not often, I mean, I'm not used to the council's kind of spending power, but £350 million on one event is quite a big shopping list. And what we tried to do was trickle local benefit down. We tried to imprint local benefit into the buying choices we were making. And when we went out to suppliers, and you actually helped us with this, we went out to teach people how to apply to a really complex public procurement tender system. But we were aiming for local employers to be primarily benefiting from that £350 million. And by value, 75% of those contracts went to West Midlands businesses.
That's amazing to hear. And I think for our audiences who may not know those numbers, I hope that is impressive enough for them to take note, because this is all about making sure that we all can grow together on the back of the games, and we can leverage our diversity in all shapes and sizes within the region. But it's about the numbers, it's about the tangibility, it's about the impact. And if I could come to yourself, Lorna, in terms of the business view on that, because you spent many years working in the region, really helping big businesses to really understand the needs of local communities, local society, more than just profit. But what does the games legacy really mean for businesses now in this kind of uncertain time of economic challenges, etc.? What does it really mean? What does the games really mean to business?
I think it means everything to business, because really what you had, alongside everything that Nicola has described, you had businesses around the region shouldering behind the effort of the organising committee and the council, and actually wanting to invest themselves, because businesses could see they could reap a massive dividend from the build up to the games and games themselves and beyond. So when you go to like a training session and someone will say at the end of the session, use it or lose it. That's what I'm picking up from businesses. We've had this glorious opportunity, and businesses have taken it, because we saw from day one the benefits for us. There were benefits as sponsors and being able to galvanise our own people, really build that culture, that sense of pride in our organisation, but in the business community and the city. So you get your people really, really motivated. The skills that businesses are deploying, whether they're part of the former games family or not, but businesses of all shapes and sizes are opened up to this opportunity that the games brought. For us, it was helping to steer from a legal point of view a big complex program. But so you're using that. It's great for bringing more clients, more business into the region. And then, like you say, crucially, the social piece. That's the thing that struck me with the games from day one. The social value, delivering that legacy for the city, was just hardwired. Everything that the games were about, that structure it's so much more than just the sport. And so you're seeing that being delivered. So whether you've got businesses who were really doubling up on their volunteering programs and supporting social enterprises, community partners that may otherwise have just really been in the shadows of the games. So businesses using their leverage to give tickets away in the same way that the organising committee were, but building those long-term relationships. So in a way, to use that sporting analogy, it's a bit of a marathon. I think we're only just really getting off the starting blocks, and the longer race now is absolutely leveraging these amazing 4 years in the run-up to those games, the games themselves. And now we've got a new foundation, a new platform to just bring more business into the region. Those businesses use the skills.
I think you make a really great point there, Lorna, because it is a marathon. It's not the games have come and gone and now everything's all going to be wonderful. There's now work, arguably, is really starting for the business community to make sure that they are leveraging the value of the games, but also continuing to give back into the region. And certainly, I would assume, Nicola, that talent is going to be a huge part of that. Certainly in terms of the volunteering opportunities and the talent coming through, and how businesses can leverage some of that talent now more than ever before. Which then does bring me on to yourself, Councillor Cotton, in terms of the inclusive impact overall from a local authority point of view. What does the games really mean to yourselves, and what does the potential opportunities look like from your perspective?
Well, I keep on going back, Joel, to the conversations that we had at the very start of when we were thinking of applying to host the games. And a question that was often asked of Ian Ward, the leader of the council at the time, was, can we afford to do this? And actually, I think the real question now is, could we have afforded not to have done this? Because, we wouldn't be having this conversation if those games had ended up going up the M6 to Liverpool or wherever else. So, the impact that's had upon our city has been amazing. It's put us on the global stage in a way that, it's hard to believe when you think of the impact that opening ceremony had, and then the days of sport that followed. It also is a great opportunity to showcase the amazing diversity of this city. I've always said, diversity is in Birmingham's DNA. We're a great, diverse and inclusive place, and we're able to celebrate that on a national and international stage. And I think that's, creates huge opportunities for business, huge opportunities for our communities here in the city. We're now looking at what are the further things that we can do. So we're talking about bringing the World Blind Games here, bringing the World Trampolining Championships, looking at the European Athletics, talking about bringing Eurovision as we, as the UK hosts on behalf of Ukraine. So, huge opportunities that then open up. And again, we've learned so much, I think, from, how to maximise the social value of the investment that came to the games and how to share it with communities as well. One of the really important things I think we delivered here was a set of programmes that sat alongside the games that touched each of the 69 wards in the city. So, there was a £2 million programme that the council funded to host events in each of the wards. We had some great community events in my part of East Birmingham, for instance. There's some great things that happened elsewhere in the city. There was the £2 million that we also put into the Creative Cities scheme, supporting arts organisations who really needed that support, frankly, post-COVID, and creating some great innovation, some great creative things that the city can celebrate as well. So huge amount of opportunity. We've learned so much, I think, about how you can maximise the impact of social value, how, when business and the public sector come together around a shared agenda, and you can deliver those jobs and opportunities, which is really fundamental when you think about the inequalities that we still have in many parts of this city. So creating opportunities for people to access jobs, access all those other things that the city has to offer.
I think that, again, that's fantastic. And I think what I'm hearing, that is a real positive opportunity that the whole region can leverage on the back of the legacy of the games. But arguably, there is some who be thinking, well, what does that mean for me in terms of a small business? Or what does it mean for a business that might be looking to the region as an opportunity to use as a launch pad for the next phase of growth for their business? So from an actual business point of view, what would we say would be maybe some of the challenges that businesses might need to consider in order to truly leverage the opportunity of the games? And I'll leave that open to whomever.
I think we could learn a lot from some of the businesses that have benefited. So, for example, there's a small SME called Cllr 360 that's based in Perry Bar. It is an immersive tech business, and I don't know if anybody played with the Perrys that could pop up on the side of your laptop, or when you went out to stand beside the big Perry statues and did your pose, and Perry would pose with you in the mirror. Taryn and his very small company built that tech. And I think that they didn't think that the events industry was a market for them.
Okay.
And so it's opened their eyes to where else they could be pitching their tech. And they've also been through your programme to help them work out how to go through a public procurement process. And now they've got skills and they've got a case study. So where do they go next? And then how does that organisation help the next Cllr 360? I think we need to help each other. I think one of the things that's gone really well for this Games is because we were coming together around a common purpose, we've managed to find a sweet spot of harmony between the public sector, the private sector, and the third sector. And I think that jam, whatever that is, we need to keep spreading it on our toast, right? Because that is what makes us different from every other city. If we can crack that, that gives everybody more hands up.
It really did feel to us like you were part of the Games family, and when you're part of that family, you kind of want to bring other people in to sit around the table, as it were. So yes, we also worked with SMEs and social enterprises, showing them how they could navigate their way through. And to your point, Nicola, where they thought, I could never get a pitch, in that huge machine that is the Commonwealth Games, and taking those perceived barriers away, showing you've got exactly the talents and the skills and the entrepreneurial spirit that this city needs. The Games need it, but the city will still need those skills and that drive after the Games. And I think that family thing, it sort of survives, and so you've still got businesses like ourselves going, well, let's just come on board and come and talk to us. We've got partnerships that began off the back of a formal Games-sponsored initiative, and they've reached their conclusion. It was a 12-month programme, but they're still rolling. You've got senior people in organisations going, can we give them some free legal advice? Can we do this, that and the other? That's exactly what you want. You just want it to run.
But that's a really important point there again, Lorna, because as much as we're championing small businesses, and I myself have been doing that for many years, as as we all, what about the larger organisations who have more resources to a degree, might have more of an infrastructure to create even more powerful change and contribution, and a greater contribution to the region in terms of scale and size? How do we help them to think differently about what they're doing?
I think they're already thinking differently. I think the ESG wave, or the environmental, social and governance wave, which we used to think of as the corporate social responsibility kind of conscience of business, I think that's woken up in a huge way post-pandemic. But I think the games and the model that we employed for the games was very much, we're going to spend £350 million, but in exchange for being a supplier on the games, 10% of your contract needs to be given back or paid forward into this region to help. And we gave people a list of things that they could invest in, whether that was ethical trading, whether it was sustainability, whether it was diversity and inclusion, or whether it was jobs and skills. And we said, here's also a list of local not-for-profit organisations that you could partner with. And the take-up of that opportunity has been incredible. Okay. In corporate wear, who are based in Coleshill, they did all our uniform. So all those bolty orange volunteers were made in by the Coleshill company in corporate wear. And when they bid for their contract on the games, it was a big contract, and we said to them, we're challenging you, pick one of those areas to give us some social value. And they said, we're going to go for it on sustainability, but it's going to be really hard for us because our entire supply chain will have to come with us on this, and we've never done that. Mm-hmm. And they said, we don't know if we can do it. And we said, please try. So what they have managed to do is, you know, the little tiny plastic tags that hold labels onto clothes? And sometimes when you do shirts, you've got the folding and the little plastic clips. And also, you know, getting those uniforms to people, the carbon footprint of flying them out or driving them to people, 14,000 volunteers.
That's a lot of people. They
thought about all of that, and they cut their carbon footprint in single-use plastics in half. And they said, if you hadn't challenged us, we probably wouldn't have challenged our supply chain. But by goodness me, are they making that a massive case study in all their future bids and tenders? Because that's put them on the front foot now competitively.
And I think that is a great example, because I think that shows that no matter what size of business you are, there are opportunities if you think differently about the opportunity. And I think the business community in Birmingham has always been entrepreneurial, but with something as large as this coming into the region, it's how do you apply that kind of mindset and energy to make sure you can leverage that in a new and exciting way, especially in the economic climate and times that we're in, where every business needs to think differently. They can't do what they all have always done in order to feel they can succeed in the future. So I think that's a great example of taking advice, thinking slightly differently, and open up a new opportunity for business. And I think where we are at the moment also is that everyone has the opportunity to grow in the region as a business. But we have to do, as you said, do it more collaboratively, do it in a much more inclusive way, without it being a charitable here you are. I think the days of that, are controversially maybe, those days are not done, but more big businesses want to see more strategic investment partners. They want to work with organisations who can show that they're there for the long term. It's almost the days of handing out a check are almost done to a degree. Would you agree, maybe?
Yeah, and I think there's a real appetite, as you said, amongst business to really engage in this social responsibility, social value agenda in a way that moves massively away from that more paternalistic approach that you talk about. You know, pejoratively, you say you've gone a long way from when the people used to come out and paint a fence for a day. It's more about how can you maximise the long-term impact of the investment that you're making. So, you know, we, as you say, there's still quite a substantial procurer of goods and services as the City Council. And one of the things that we've tried to do through our Business Charter for Social Responsibility is exactly that. And, you know, maximise the impact of every pound that we're spending. So encouraging the use of local supply chains, getting businesses to think innovatively, because, you know, business is full of innovation. So how do you unlock that in ways that then produce benefits for communities? And if I think about the work that we've done with businesses in the city around the real living wage, for instance, there's a real appetite to engage on those agendas. I think one of the challenges for us, which again has been, we've seen the potential of this mobilised by the Games, is really to set out what our ask of businesses is going forward. So we know that we've got significant issues around social and economic inequality in this city. And fixing that isn't a nice to have, because actually if you fix that, there's so much talent and potential that you unlock an opportunity for greater productivity that benefits all of us. I think we've got to set out clearly, you know, how we can work with business, where those opportunities are, what we'd like them to think about innovating and helping to support us with. The game showed us how you can really do that. And now as we move into this cost of living crisis, everything else that's coming down the track, that's going to be more important than ever.
Absolutely, and I suppose in my day-to-day world, we talk a lot about inclusive innovation as a kind of fintech space, and one of the things that's really coming out is how businesses can now use technology in more exciting ways in order to drive even greater value for their clients. But I think that also is applicable to non-financial spaces, non-business spaces. I think it's about inclusive thinking and inclusive innovation as a region now, because I think, as you say, the global platform that the Games has given us the opportunity to showcase why people should work with us inclusively in all manners of the word.
I think what's really interesting is I think we started out the Games as, there's a lot of words around we're the youngest city in Europe, we're one of the most diverse cities with 180 countries represented in our residence. But I think when people came here and visited, they didn't see those things. What they saw was a friendly city, a city that made them feel welcome. And, when we looked at the visitor scores, we just had those in on Friday, and it was so interesting to see. They said, John's going to be happy with this. They said that Birmingham was a great location for a major event. And it wasn't just like 50% of people that said that. 93% of the people they surveyed said it was incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
And the market research company that did this visitor survey, they do this for a living, and they said that the net promoter score on this event was the highest they have ever seen for any event ever. And that, I'm not that familiar with what a net promoter score, but that is the likelihood of you telling the person in the queue next to you or in the lift, this was great. Yeah. It was great. And we all want a bit of that, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think for me, that itself is a perfect example of why we as a region need to continue to shout loud about what we have, the opportunities that are here, but do it much more collaboratively, do it together.
Yeah.
I guess stop this fragmentation that we sometimes see when things happen in the region, and they get it. Let's all get it. Let's all share, and let's make sure that the value gets cascaded right down, grassroots right through to boardrooms, because that's the only way we all win.
Everyone wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of our audience and those who've been watching the show today, I hope you've really got an insight into some of the great things that colleagues have been working on and working in, and the value they've been providing through their organisations. But also understanding that you as the business community really have the opportunity now to really leverage the legacy of the Games, whether it's about talent, whether it's about opportunity, whether it's about contribution to community, whether it's about economic growth for your own organisation and your contribution to the region itself. But more importantly, doing it from in the right way, with the right purpose, for the right reasons. You've got the opportunity to do that. So let's kind of all keep going together and keep driving forward to make this the greatest place in the world, which it already is, really. So please do tune into our next show, where we'll be talking about finance. But before we go, I'd like to just invite all our guests just to share a final thought, contact details, anywhere where our business audience can come and learn a bit more about the legacy of the game. So Nicola, if I can start with yourself.
So the Games, we run it on a shorter timescale than normal. We crossed the various challenges of the pandemic and still put it on and made a success of it. And the good news is we didn't spend all the money. So there is some unspent contingency. And, I'm coming together with the leader of the council, with the mayor, to keep this spirit of collaboration going. Because we think if we go in together and ask government if we can keep the money in the West Midlands and spend it on the economy, spend it on the social impact that we've just started to see unfolding, and spend it on making this a major event city that everyone wants to come to, that would be a tremendous legacy.
That's your space. Councillor Cotton.
Yeah, it was always about much more than just the 11 days of sport. We've had this amazing opportunity to showcase our city and our region to the world. And the world has clearly liked what they've seen, as we've just heard. So there's a moment here that we really need to seize, particularly as we know that there's also challenges coming down the track as well economically. So if we really need to maximise the impact of this moment, making use of the resources that we know are there from that underspend, but also the innovation and the talent that we've unlocked through the games and afterwards as well. So, yeah, we're absolutely up for leading that and working with our partners at the City Council to ensure that happens. And if anyone wants to follow more, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Councillor John Cotton.
Fantastic. Thank you. And last but not least, Lorna.
Yeah, I think, from our perspective, we were lucky to be in almost from day one. It was one of the first sponsors of the Games. It was a big leap of faith for us, really. We'd never done anything quite on this scale before. It quickly became a no-brainer, and the returns we've seen as a business have been phenomenal. And I think one of the most joyous things has been seeing actually working with other businesses, that sense of collaboration we've heard about time and time again. It was there and it still carries on. Seeing the benefits for people and organisations, but for us, I think the community benefit has just been the icing on the cake. And seeing that, I say that is a thing that will survive long past the last podium being dismantled, and by the way, probably being donated to one of the community groups that we've been talking about. This feels like the beginning now. A huge legacy has been built, and now we need to keep building on it. This is like the foundation, and now let's just keep
Feels
it
like
growing.
it's up to us, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a responsibility, but I think, like you said, you're seeing the whole city in its widest sense in the region pulling together.
wanna let it go,
Everyone
do we?
wants
Absolutely.
to, share the
Fantastic.
benefit.
We can make it happen.
I think we can.
We can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your time today and being part of BBTV, and we look forward to kind of seeing what happens next with the legacy of the Games as a real catalyst for the future. So to our audience, please do continue to follow us on bbtv.live, follow us on Twitter, connect with us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you soon.